Which is more important today, the Flynn news or the tax news for the market?
Me first?
I'm looking at you. Ladies first.
Ladies first. So I think actually the Flynn news is probably contributing to the volatility that we see today. I think pretty much investors have come to peace with the fact that the tax bill, at least one out of the Senate, is going to be voted on successfully today. They appear to have the 50 votes necessary. So I think we do see a little political risk now being injected into the market.
And the risk being that this could be a long, drawn-out, politically crippling investigation for the Trump administration?
Potentially. I think it just injects a little bit of uncertainty at a time.
So, Ed, let me turn to you. Yep. Last night, the Joint Committee on Taxation comes out with its report that indicates that this tax law, far from paying for itself, will add $1 trillion to the deficit and raise, what, $407 billion in new revenues attributable to growth. How do you, as an economist, look at this tax law? Have you? And what do you think it'll do for growth and the deficit?
It's hard to get a handle on it because
who knows what it is?
Who knows what it is? It kind of reminds me of Obamacare, where, you know, we didn't know what was in it until it was finally passed, and then it was so long, it took a long time to figure out how. And this one's got so many different bells and whistles going on. It's not quite clear how it's all going to add up. I think.
Do you think big tax cuts ever fully pay for themselves?
I kind of doubt it. You know, I think at the end of the day, if you don't have some discipline on the spending side, it's hard to see how you actually get it all worked out.
Katie, do you think that the market came back a bit, not only because of taxes, but also because, and I know you're not a political analyst, but this is the news of the day, that the first part of the story was Trump directed Flynn to call the Russians, period.
Yeah.
Now it's Trump directed Flynn to call the Russians about fighting ISIS in Syria.
Yeah.
It's like Trump called his defense attorney, period, to ask him to pick up his son at school. Like, they're very different things in some ways. Do you think that's part of the reason the market came back? That second part, I think they call it a participle.
It was dangling.
Oh, yes, it was dangling. It's dangling a little bit less low right now. Yes, I do think that, you know, it's less of a problem now that the sentence has been completed. But I do think that this just re-injects short-term political risk into a market that's selling at very high valuations. We're nearing the end of the year when investors want to lock in some gains. We have some sectors that have way outperformed the market. So it's normal to see this. And I think it's really funny because we've been so comfortably numb with the market in the last year or so.
Nice Pink Floyd reference there. That was good.
Even a little volatility feels very volatile. This is normal.
Right. Do I recall correctly, right after the election, you said back up the truck on stocks?
Absolutely.
You were very, very bullish. We've come so far since then. Put aside everything today. If they hadn't, you know, brought Flynn to court today, if the tax, where would you be?
Same position. We don't have tax reform built into our earnings estimates for next year. I mean, look at the fundamentals. They're so strong.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get at. The first question we asked you, what's more important to the market today? And you said the market's selling off because of Flynn, right?
Short term.
But does that make you negative long term? Like, would you still be piling into stocks right here?
Absolutely. We are very overweight risk. We're overweight global equities. We continue to see a very strong fundamental foundation aside from potential improvements in the picture that would come from tax reform, which, you know, Ed, to your point, it's hard to determine. There are headwinds and tailwinds and cross currents associated with some of the things that are in the bill as I see it. But one thing you can see from a reduction in the corporate tax rate is probably going to be very good for stockholders.
So Ed, I want to turn to my economist who I've known for years and years and respected for years and years. As you look into 2018, what kind of economy do you see? What kind of corporate profit growth do you see? And implicit in that, what kind of stock market do you see?
Well, I see the market going higher. As a matter of fact, I see 3,100 on the S&P 500 by the end of next year, and by the end of next year, we're going to be discounting.
That's another 20%.
It's another 20%. Yeah. Well, I think we're sort of in the early phases of a melt-up. And look, we've had 58 panic attacks in this bull market, and every one of these panic attacks has been followed by a relief rally. This could very well be a one-day panic attack followed by a relief rally.
Why do you think we're going to go up that much?
Well, I think earnings are going to be just great. I mean, the reason earnings are doing so well is because on a global basis, the global economy has never really looked better, quite honestly. I mean, it's a synchronized global boom. And we're seeing more and more of that strength in the United States.
What does it tell you, though, Ed, about the fact, and you say panic attack, and as the numbers get bigger, the percentages get smaller, and the fact that we've got headlines about the former National Security Advisor potentially going to testify against the president, and the Dow is down 4/10 of
yeah,
1%.
it's really nothing. I mean, it's PE times E, and the E looks pretty good. And today we had a little bit of a PE panic attack, and that PE could come right back up. I mean, we're at 18 on the forward PE, so it's not exactly cheap. I agree with that. But I think what the market's discounting is that the expansion could last a lot longer, as long as inflation stays down.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.